Sit your $5 ass down.
Lay your ass down.
Go back you in. Sit down.
I know. Look at that white goat. Oh, they are so cute. Oh, look, there's a black one.
Black one.
Because I'm black.
Mayday, it's on the coast guard, we have no through. Mayday, it's on the coast guard, we have no through. Yes, the master has informed me that the last sighting of the 14th man was on the bow of the vessel, on the bow of the stricken vessel.
Ну, был какой-то взрыв, говорят, на нем или на чем. Кто-то взорвался.
Да, опасно уже оставили. А этот крутой, конечно, гибрид, блин.
Гибрид, да.
Стал себе в деписах, походу.
Да, да, ему подал, абсолютно похуй. Бля, он весь горел, танкер весь выгорел.
Да.
Видишь, все борта прогорели.
Ну, борта прогоревшая, палуба как, блин, много.
Так что, может он взорвался и вытекло все это или что-то? Ну и до сих пор с клюза попадает.
А, так у него он и какое-то самопришествие еще.
Да, да. А, да, точно, он немножко...
Да, у него. Он еще, блин, живой надо.
Well, Elon Musk experienced the seventh worst day of his life today, with the stock market crashing on fears of a
northeast of the Humber of Grimsby, where we are, and then around about 1 o'clock we got the first casualties. The first one was an offshore wind farm vessel was in the vicinity and picked up 13 casualties. That came in, and then the second vessel that came in shortly afterwards was an ABP pilot vessel, and that had 10 casualties. And then shortly after that, another vessel came in with 9 casualties. So a total of 32 casualties came, and they were taken to Princess Diana Hospital in Grimsby. There was a queue of ambulances ready on the quay to take them away. All of the 32 were alive, so we don't know of any. I don't know of any casualties, anybody that's lost a life or anything. And I don't know how many crew there were in total. And we've also been told that there might be another vessel with some more casualties to come.
Do we know whether these casualties were plucked from the water or were taken from the vessels?
I would think it depends on how there was a fireball, so it just depends on what happened out there, and of course nobody knows. Very few people were there at the time. I would imagine they were taken off the vessel. There would be evacuation procedures on the boat, so all the crew would know what to do and how to get off. But again, who knows what the actual incident was like? And I've seen a couple of the pictures, and it's fairly dramatic. So it looks terrible.
How many rescue boats have gone out from your port, the Port of Grimsby, and how many are still out looking?
Well, what happens in this circumstance is that immediately there is almost automatically a mayday signal that goes out. So what happens is that all the vessels in the immediate vicinity will go to assist the crew and the vessels and the people on board. So the first vessel that came in was actually a crew transfer vessel for the offshore wind farms. So he wasn't out there. He didn't go to rescue them particularly. He just happened to be there. So he was the first one there. And then they called for the lifeboat. So there's only one lifeboat on the Humber, but one went from the Humber, another one went from Cleethorpes, and another lifeboat went from Bridlington. So lifeboats went, but luckily there were actually 2 or 3 vessels already out there. So some of the injured people, the casualties, were able to get on board and come ashore.
Understood. Do you have any more information on exactly what happened or what might have led to this?
The only thing I know is that the 2 vessels, the Stena Immaculate and the Solong, the Stena Immaculate was at anchor, which means it was stationary. So it was basically parked out in the North Sea. And the Solong was steaming. So it seems a mystery, really, because all the vessels now have very high sophisticated technical equipment to plot courses and to look at any obstacles or anything they've got to avoid. So the North Sea is actually a very busy stretch of water. It's a shallow sea as well, but there's lots of oil rigs, there's wind farms, there's protected areas, there's all sorts of areas that vessels are not allowed to go. So you've got to have your wits about you. But also with the vessels, they set a course. So there will be a course that would have been set. So you would presume that they would have known that they were on a particular course. So you wouldn't expect that a vessel would tie up at anchor in a shipping lane. But I don't know. There's a lot of speculation, but it's difficult to actually suggest what went on, other than the fact it should never have happened.
Well, Anna Stewart, following
ricocheting across the country, from Wall Street to Main Street, people who follow the markets, people affected by the markets, people who have money in their retirement program, and a heck of a lot of employees wondering if a day this bad, what some are calling a Trump slump, means we are in for a rocky ride. The Dow plunged almost 900 points. The NASDAQ had its worst day in over 2 years.
The markets are selling off to a point where we're starting to see some real breakage here.
Bell's going to ring in just a moment now, and it's going to ring out a lot of red.
Here come the bells. Oh, boy, what a session. We are actually closing off the session lows, but a big and ugly day.
That bell marks the end of regulation, mercifully maybe. Stocks closing off the lows, but it was another big sell-off to start the week, especially for big tech, with the NASDAQ tanking 4%, dragged down by Tesla, Palantir, Apple, and NVIDIA.
A total, complete washout. Very, very few companies that managed to be in the green today.
And President Trump, who has long cited his perceived or claimed business record, sometimes in a boardroom that was actually a television set, sometimes in other actual real-world business deals, branding and casinos, he has long cited that as his differentiator across a lot of other candidates and leaders. And we have seen evidence that at times the voters have bought that, the idea that his background in business or the television business would somehow make him a great leader for the economy. That was tested in the first term, where the pandemic and other incidents overtook the entire economy. Trump certainly didn't have a magic way to reverse that then. Maybe no president could have. But now we are seeing a direct response to his leadership, the way he is running the government, the reports of these chaotic cabinet meetings, the tariffs that are announced, withdrawn, repackaged. And during an interview on Fox with Maria Bartiromo, who is a well-known reporter, has tracked a lot of business issues over the course of her career, she asked some straightforward questions and got some really striking answers, including the sitting president saying he couldn't really rule out the possibility of a recession stoked by his Trump tariffs and his Trump-Musk government cuts.
Are you expecting a recession this year?
I hate to predict things like that. There is a period of transition because what we're doing is very big. We're bringing wealth back to America. That's a big thing. And there are always periods of, it takes a little time. It takes a little time. But I think it should be great for us. I mean, I think it should be great.
Not exactly a clear answer, certainly not the kind of business acumen, economic leadership that has a message that might help stabilize the markets. And anyone who's followed the markets knows they do have a kind of a logic all their own. They're not going to be sweet-talked into something by a president, any president who wants things to just be better. But they might have taken a better message that was sturdy or clear about what the United States was going to do, or taking things off the table, or clarifying why he started last week, Monday, with tariffs, some of which were walked back by the end of the week. That message didn't come across. And instead, Donald Trump did something that we've seen before, whether you're more interested in politics, law, news, or the markets. He did the old two-step that everyone has seen, where very blatantly he tries to just directly retract, paper over, reverse what he said in the past. He's long claimed the markets are the thing to watch. Now, here's his answer.
You said, look, we're going to have a disruption, but we're okay with that. Is that what you meant? The stock market going down was the disruption? What other disruption were you alluding to?
Look, what I have to do is build a strong country. You can't really watch the stock market.
Don't watch the stock market unless you're crowing about how initially after the election, and we covered this at the time, there was a spike after Trump won in November. There were stocks and companies that were seen as having a better footing in the expected sort of deregulatory environment of a Republican administration. And here's how Trump sounded then.
What do you have to say to the American investor in this country?
Well, I think you're going to see some very good days ahead.
We used to speak together about the idea that the averages mattered and were a good barometer of your performance. Is that still the case? When we go beyond Dow Jones, maybe to NASDAQ?
Well, I think I've always said, to me, stock market is all of it, all of it together. It's very important.
Very important, and here is that very important trajectory.
Yes, the master has informed me the last sighting of the 14th man was on the bow of the vessel, on the bow of the stricken vessel.
Front exclusive. J.D. Vance's cousin, my guest, and a former U.S. Marine, standing up to the vice president over his stance on Ukraine. Nate Vance is a Texas native. He fought on the front lines in Ukraine for nearly 3 years as part of the elite Da Vinci Wolves battalion, seeing some of the war's bloodiest, most horrific battles all the way from 2022 until just this January. This video shows him in a trench as Russian artillery rounds were raining down on him and his battalion. These images show the two cousins back in the day vacationing together. Through the years, Nate and JD share grandparents. JD's mother and Nate's father are siblings. And Nate Vance is out front now. Nate, I really appreciate your talking, and I want to get to exactly why you're speaking out, because I know you do so after careful consideration. So, Nate, I know you call yourself a Republican-leaning independent. I know you've been supportive at times of the Trump administration. But on this issue of Ukraine, where you have put so much of your life over these past few years, you think your cousin is misguided. How come?
Excuse me. Well, I think my experience in Ukraine has given me a unique perspective that most Americans don't have. There are certainly cultural differences both between the Ukrainians and Americans and the Russians. And I think if you try to deal with Russia through an American lens, it will come back to bite you. They don't necessarily think like we think. And I'm talking about their political class. I've personally witnessed them shooting their own troops on enough occasions that it wasn't just an isolated incident. It's happened quite a bit. Enough to the point where you could consider it to be policy if troops are retreating. So these people, as a policy, will eat their own. So they will not hesitate to eat an American president or American vice president. They don't care what we think. They're not our allies, and they never will be, not at least for a generation.
I know that you've tried to reach out to your cousin since he took office, but haven't been successful. I mean, what were you planning to say to him? I mean, what do you want to say to him now in this moment?
Well, look, I mean, there's there's more than one reason why you could make the argument for supporting Ukraine. There's the, kind of emotional argument, the human element argument part of it, which fine, if that's the argument you want to make in order to support Ukraine, then I support that. There's also the element of how it will affect the United States long term, right? So if you're just more transactional in nature and you are concerned, what is the benefit for the United States? I don't think there's any scenario where like if this war pauses and sanctions are lifted, Russia has spent the last 3 years kind of beefing up their military-industrial complex, and if you lift those sanctions, you're going to see a massive influx of funds into that military-industrial complex, and they're going to build a war machine out of it, right? That's what they're going to do. And the concept of an imperialistic, aggressive, modernized military Russia who has learned their lessons about modern combat is problematic for our future. And if the Russians are given significant concessions in this ceasefire, they will spin that as a victory of sorts. But their view is they're not done. So to them, it's just a chance to regroup, build up and modernize, and they'll come back. And when they do come back, they'll be more of a problem than they are now. Right now, they're at the weakest they will ever be. As soon as the ceasefire starts, they will immediately start to get stronger and continue to get stronger every day thereafter. So the way this ends is important.
In that context, obviously, I think I'm thinking of the moment when your cousin, Vice President Vance, publicly reprimanded Ukraine's president, right? It's an unforgettable moment in the Oval Office when your cousin's sitting on the couch and Zelensky is next to Trump sitting in those chairs. Let me just play it.
Mm-hmm. I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
J.D. Vance was seen as widely seen as the instigator, in that moment, right? When he got it, you should show appreciation, and he was angry.
Yeah.
You obviously have known him his whole life. Did it surprise you, the way he acted in that moment?
I was surprised. I think what surprised me the most was, regardless of the situation, there's a certain level of decorum that should be reached. And, I'm not naive enough to think that, national leaders don't debate behind closed doors. But when you do that and you publicly, kind of ridicule someone in public, that they have to almost defend themselves. So it was really disappointing to see it for me. I disagreed with that tact.
Now,
there's a much more diplomatic way to say, wait, I think we're getting off on the wrong foot here. Maybe we can kind of, readdress what our positions are and things like that. There's much better ways to handle that.
I know, Nate, that you and Vice President Vance have not spoken about this issue, right,
Mm-hmm.
since you've come back. But I know you've reached out to him. I'm curious. You did share some photos of the two of you growing up at his grandmother's house. He's in the Superman shirt there on the tractor. Then JD spent time with your family in California. And, so these are all the times you spent together. And what was he like then? And how do you feel now that, I guess, I don't know how to put it, he's not returning your call on this issue that you know so much about?
Well, I can't, in all fairness to JD, say that he received that message and then ignored it. I can't do that because I don't know that he got it. But I did reach out. But regardless of whether or not I reached out or not, he definitely knew I was there and at no point tried to make contact, and there were ways to do that. So when, if a wise person, if they're going to make a decision, tries to find every available piece of information to kind of come to a conclusion about something, and this is such a dramatic issue, or such a serious issue that, why not seek out every piece of information? He certainly doesn't have to take my advice, but I do find it a little strange that he never sought the advice in the first place.
Well, Nate, we really appreciate your taking the time. Again, as I said to everybody, I know you did this after careful consideration, but we appreciate it and thank you.
No, I appreciate it too. Thank you.
Markets continued to fall on Monday as Donald Trump refused to rule out a recession amid rising prices and confusion over his on-again, off-again trade war. And now Trump
Greetings. There we go. How do I? All right. All right. So as you see, some of what I was displaying was what's going on with the oil spill. Oil spill is going into the UK at this point, which I believe what I would say is inevitable for the fact that wildlife tends to be affected by whatever we're doing. And I know it's about, sorry. How did my butt rip that out the wall? My butt ain't that big. It's not that big. Jesus. Girl. So it will begin to possibly affect wildlife. It will inevitably affect wildlife. So that's just some of the things that to consider that we don't tend to consider when we have natural disasters. Disasters. This wasn't natural. And oil spills. And we know from prior history that oil spills take a long time to even get under control because they just spread. So what they're doing is they're doing a lot of, CYA covering their own asses with this crash. So I'm going to show some more footage. I'm KY7. Sometimes I mostly do live streams where I'm talking, I do commentary, but sometimes people do enjoy coming in. They just want to catch some news and catch up on what's going on. So I just get right to the facts quietly and just keep pushing stuff out. You might be on your way to work, at work. You don't have time for that. I work off New York time anyway, so we do stuff real quick. So I want to just bring you out the news, which I may do early if you guys, coming through. It helps if you hit the like button. It helps if you subscribe. So shout out to the people that have and do help support the channel here. I'm going to show some other things. And, it's affecting stocks, the recession. What was very interesting over the past 24 hours is a decrease in the value of stocks. Don't let that discourage you. I'm not a stock expert, but I know how to make money off stocks. So the stocks are lower. We got NVIDIA. Is it IMD or IBM is still a good one? And there's some other ones. You still may want to jump in and get these stocks while they're plunged because the price is lower. The price will go back up, but we don't know when. So what people are doing is sitting and waiting to see what Trump is going to say. So as soon as he finally admitted there might be a bit of a recession, they take their stock money out. So the stocks are plunging. So it is affecting our economy, of course, and it's looking negative, but stocks are stocks. They go up and down, up and down. So it's all about you and what you choose to pick as your stock. I'll show a little bit from Dr. Boyce Watkins too. He's great with stocks, and we can see some more. What I just showed was JD Vance's cousin. He just came on and was speaking out against JD Vance. So he's his cousin, but he feels that he's just under Trump's, I guess, magical spell, if you will. So we'll get into that, get into some stocks because the stocks affect all of us. Whether you buy stocks or not, you are a consumer. We're all consumers. It don't matter if you own your own business. It doesn't matter. We all are consumers to somebody. We all buy things from companies. So why not put some money in the company so you can make some extra money too? That's just how it goes. If anyone's interested in more descriptive investment details and things like that, you need to let me know because people come and go all the time. There's thousands of channels on YouTube. I get it. But with my channel, I have a lot of information that other channels just don't have, and nobody's going to bring it to you like I do. So there you go. All right, so I want to show some of Boyce. He's talking about why the stock market is collapsing and how you can get involved with his program that he has where he helps teach stocks and he helps guide you. I was a student of Dr. Boyce Watkins some years back. I don't want to say was because I still have his skills implemented in me. And what it is just letting you know that you need to just go for it. Don't hold back when it's time to possibly make some money. Don't hold back. Go for it. We are in a recession, but we already were in a recession. So it's up to you and what you want to do or how you see yourself making more money because you're going to need it. So here we go.
that becomes a problem. Was it New Mexico? Thank you, Michael. I didn't know what it was. One of them states, one of them places. So anyway, Trump is the reason the market's crashing right now. That he is the reason. You can't put it on any other variable other than the guy in the White House. Now, that does not necessarily mean you should love or hate Trump one way or the other. I know a lot of you have your beliefs and your feelings about him. There's the short game and the longer game, right? So the longer game is that there could be some economic wins further down the road. The longer game is that this could be a scenario where you buy the dip and everything's okay. Or the longer game could be more negative, where you end up disrupting consumer confidence. You disrupt the confidence of corporations as well to believe that they're going to have a stable enough landscape to make long-term economic plans. You disrupt global trade in a significant way. And so overall, worldwide, there is some probability that you could have a global recession out of this. And in fact, they've even used that term, stagflation, which is a very bad economic term. That's a scary term. Stagflation is inflation and a stagnant economy at the same time. That's almost like a person who has cancer, but they're allergic to chemotherapy, right? So, so the more you try to heal them, the more they're going to die. Or a grease fire in your kitchen. The more you want to pour water on it, the bigger the fire gets. Stagflation is kind of like a grease fire in the economy where it's very, very difficult to manage this. So I'm going to give you some quick variables that are happening now. And what I want to do also is by the time we're done, I'm going to give you some stocks that you can take a look at. These will be what they might call safe haven companies that you can invest in that will be safer during an economic downturn. So you can sort of picture all these different companies almost like boats on an ocean. And you've got the big tankers that are that don't move very much with the waves. And then you got the medium-sized, yachts or whatever. Then you got the little tiny dinghies. And the tiny dinghies are rocking left and right? So some of these dinghy stocks are really getting killed. The big tankers are staying pretty consistent in the ocean. So so here are some quick little stats to kind of let you know what's happening here and why this is kind of an issue. You're not in bear market territory yet. A bear market is when you are 20% off of your previous high. Last I checked, the S&P is about 8% off of its high. So if this continues for another week or two at the same rate that it's been going so far, we will be in a bear market. Trump will have succeeded in destroying the stock market. And what's really crazy is I think even his buddy Elon Musk, Tesla, I saw something that said Tesla stock is 50% down this year, but let me double check that because that would sound crazy. But let me make sure I'm right about that because that sounds like I feel crazy even saying that. But it's down 15% today. The last 6 months. Okay, the last 6 months is only down 1.78%. The last month, though, it's down 36%. Year to date, it's down 41%. Okay, but over the last year, Tesla stock has actually made money. So that's kind of the interesting scenario that Elon Musk is looking at. Like right now, if you bought Tesla stock at the start of the year, January 1st, and you've held it for the last 2 months and 10 days, you have lost 41% of your money. That's a big problem. However, if you have held Tesla stock for the last 5 years, then maybe you're not mad because you have actually 5x'd your money. You 5x'd your money. But here's the crazy part. The stock is trading at 222.15. Not long ago, at the end of 2024, it was trading at 436. So people who invested in Tesla toward the end of the year got their asses kicked. They just got absolutely pummeled. I'm going to tell you what I'm doing. Here's one little, so this is the first. It's not even a stock recommendation. I don't give investing advice. I'm just going to tell you what I'm buying. I'm buying Tesla. I'm buying Tesla because I want to hold it for the next 10 years. I'm buying Tesla because I believe, and I've heard from enough experts that they have technology that is advanced enough that they're just going to kill it financially. I'm buying Tesla because I believe that this dip is an opportunity to be a part of something bigger long term. I'm buying Tesla because I believe that once autonomous vehicles kind of hit the market, that they're really going to be able to have a huge piece of that. I believe also that their positioning in AI with robots and everything is going to be pretty powerful, and I want to be a part of that. Now, the problem with Tesla, though, is that you have risk. You have this key man risk. If Elon Musk slips and dies in the bathtub, then guess what? Tesla loses $100 billion in market value because Elon's gone. So the company is very brand driven in its valuation, but I think that there's something to that. I really believe that. All right. So anyway, do me a favor. Please hit the thumbs up button. Thumbs up, share, subscribe.
So that was some info there on some stocks. The stocks are down. They're actually plunging very quickly. But it was as soon as President Trump somewhat, admitted that we're in a recession, which we already knew, but some of y'all need to hear it from someone's mouth. So that just shows me, to be honest, too, that there's a lot of sheep out here. So when I say sheep, that means you have a different perception of reality. You see the egg prices, you see the other prices that have been going up. They're haywire, right? When Trump first got into office, he said the prices are going to go down. Get me in there. I got it. He said that before he gained presidency, and it didn't work out that way in his favor. But things don't always work out like that. Some people give us broken promises, whether they, had intentions on doing it the right way or not. Y'all needed to hear him say recession. Everyone was waiting like, no, we need to hear you say it. You can be in the midst of a war, which you are, but you need to hear the certain person say it to believe it. You're not living in reality, people. You're just sitting around watching internet and stuff and not educating yourself. You can watch the internet, but you have to educate yourself, or you bound to just be on the wayside like everything else. All right. So now we have this oil spill. It's affecting the wildlife, which just keeps happening, and nobody cares unless there's a fire or something else going on with the wildlife. Our livelihood does depend on a lot of wildlife. I don't know if y'all realize that, but it does. And a lot of y'all probably don't know this. We're staying alive due to whale poop. So there's a lot of things in the ocean area, the microorganisms and the mammals and their life cycles that affect humans. So it is very important. So I just wanted to put that out there. That was Dr. Boyce Watkins, drboycestockmarket.com. So what he's doing is encouraging you to still stay vigilant, look at the stocks, still take your chances with stocks possibly. And it's not even going to take too much of your extra money right now because the stocks are so low, they've plunged. So there you go with that. I'm going to put something else up there too. Shout out to SEMO, speaking of donations and whatnot. If anyone's interested too, or you like the information I provide, I have videos, I have shorts. I do live streams where I talk and give commentary, but sometimes I just want to I shoot out the news. I do it real early and try to get you guys into things that are most important, and anything that's late breaking, like it just came out, boom, like JD Vance's cousin just came out and he throwing him all under the bus. He said, yeah, we blood, but that cousin don't know what he's talking about. He don't know what he's doing. So that's that. Cash App KIYNY007. It's supposed to be a $sign in there. And there's a PayPal KIYNY. That information is there if you're interested in any donations. Are always appreciated. And I don't really bring them up, but sometimes I will put on the screen. Why not? Shout out to SEMO. I appreciate the Cash App you sent me the other day. And when I get into a different format, I'm trying to do it with this new app where I can put, when people subscribe, it'll come up on the screen. It may even do it now. I'm not sure. Donations will pop up. People that do help support an educated woman like myself, or I self-educate and I've been educated in the system. So if you appreciate that and what I put in there, there's plenty of ways to show it. You can participate, you go in the chat room, hit like, hit subscribe, do those things. So it's always appreciated. And I'm Kai and Y. I'm going to show Anderson Cooper just came out and said something. Okay, Trump is going to law firms, and he's going after, they're saying, people that are supporting his opponents. So I'm going to show some of that right now, since that literally just came out moments ago. So we'll check that out right now. Okay.
well documented. But now as president, he's taking an even more aggressive approach, going after law firms that represent clients like that the president doesn't like. The first to feel his wrath is a law firm which represents former special counsel Jack Smith. Smith, as you know, is now a private citizen, but as special counsel with the Department of Justice, he brought criminal charges against Trump in 2 cases. Smith is expecting to be the subject of a number of investigations by Republicans in Congress for which he'll need legal help. Now, in late February, the president signed a memo suspending the active security clearances of lawyers from a firm called Covington and Burling who represent Jack Smith.
Hold it. This is a good one. Is everybody listening? Deranged Jack Smith. We're going to call it the Deranged Jack Smith signing or bill. Go ahead.
In some cases, when sensitive material is involved, attorneys need security clearances to adequately represent a client. For instance, Donald Trump's attorneys had security clearances working on the classified documents case against him and other cases as well. If Mr. Smith's attorneys can have access to sensitive documents, the question is, can he be adequately represented in national security matters by them? According to legal scholars, it could also violate the First Amendment's right to free speech, the Fifth Amendment's guarantee of due process, and the Sixth Amendment's right to effective assistance of counsel. It's not just one firm that's been targeted so far. Another firm, Perkins Coie, it's called, they've been targeted. They represented Hillary Clinton's campaign when she ran against Trump, and they hired an opposition research firm, which ended up producing the now infamous Steele dossier. Lawyers at Perkins Coie are currently working on a case challenging Trump's ban on trans service members, and the president has also attacked them for having internal diversity initiatives. 4 days ago, that law firm's security clearances were also suspended, and they've been banned from entering some federal buildings.
This is an absolute honor to sign. What they've done is it's just terrible. It's weaponization. You could say weaponization against a political opponent, and you're looking at about 15 different firms?
That or more, sir, yes.
15 firms or more. The question left in the air, of course, is who's next? And that's a question the president likely wants law firms asking themselves. These actions against 2 prominent firms certainly send a chilling message to other firms about taking on cases that President Trump might not like. Even if individual lawyers may be brave enough to incur the wrath of the most powerful man in the world, the other attorneys at their firm may not be. And the other clients of these firms may cancel their business because they're afraid the president will then punish their companies just by using one of these law firms. That, it seems, is not an accidental byproduct of the president's actions. It sounds like that's the point. Yesterday, in an interview on Fox Business, the president threatened more firms will be targeted.
We have a lot of law firms that we're going to be going after because they were very dishonest people. They were very, very dishonest. I could go point after point after point, and it was so bad for our country. And we have a lot of law firms that we're going after.
Well, joining me now is former Ambassador Norm Eisen. He was special counsel to House Democrats in President Trump's first impeachment, is now the executive chair of the State Democracy Defenders Fund, who have a number of pending legal motions against the Trump administration. And just this afternoon, according to this posting by Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, Norm's security clearance was revoked per directive of the president. I'm also joined by Erin Mulvaney with the Wall Street Journal, whose latest piece is titled "Fear of Trump Has Elite Law Firms in Retreat." So, Erin, can you just walk us through your reporting? What are attorneys at these firms saying, probably not on the record, but about what's going on?
I think chill is definitely the right word that you had at the top of the segment. I think there's just a fear of any kind of retaliation, maybe even not of what happened to the first 2 law firms that you mentioned. They're fearful of losing clients. They're fearful of retaliation against their clients.
Because other clients who don't have a case against the president or some company that has this firm representing them, they might be fearful that, well, the president will go after this company because their attorneys he doesn't like.
Yeah, exactly. I think that, and we're also talking about these types of firms are the biggest, the most elite. They represent the biggest companies in the world too. So they go hand in hand. And I think that's why it's a bit alarming that, law firms can step back. Everyone can get a lawyer of any kind. And yeah, and to some extent they do choose their clients. Well, they do choose their clients, but it's a matter of, but they're just doing their job. That's what the lawyers would say. But the idea that Trump is willing and will retaliate against them if there's a perceived notion that they're coming after him or enemies, I think that's what's alarming.
Yeah.
Even the biggest firms out there.
And Norm, I mean, you're involved in multiple cases challenging the administration. We mentioned your security clearance getting pulled. But by the way, does anyone notify you, or did you just hear that through Tulsi Gabbard's, announcement?
My phone started blowing up. Look at Tulsi Gabbard's tweet. And Anderson, President Trump had said he was going to do this several weeks ago, right after we secured a court order in one of our cases at Democracy Defenders, protecting thousands of FBI agents from retaliation for working on January 6 cases. So you really have to see this as a kind of a backhanded compliment. We're working on over a dozen cases, and we've gotten those orders in many of the cases in response to illegal behavior by the administration. And this is more retaliation. Plenty of lawyers are going to stand up to it.
And Aaron, in terms of the retaliation, it's revoking security clearances. What else?
There are also firms that work with big companies that have government contracts, and Trump is asking to investigate those government contracts and potentially revoke them. Which
Wow,
is
so not
just
related to the case
lucrative.
they're working on, just any government contract this firm may have.
Right. I mean, if you read the executive orders, it's very clear that the firms are being targeted, not the work they're doing necessarily. Even the one about Jack Smith is about the firm being the problem.
Wow.
And the second was much more sweeping. It called for investigations into DEI practices, revoking of government contracts. You mentioned access to federal buildings. It's written a little broadly, so it's not clear if that means federal courthouses. And the second law firm, Perkins Coie, has said that they see it as patently unlawful, the move, and they will challenge.
And Norm, I mean, for you, this feels like, administrations have had contentious relationships, with law firms in the past, but this feels like they're pulling levers which have not been pulled before.
Anderson, it's illegal. It's a violation of the Constitution. The first time they try to keep me out of a courthouse will be right in front of a judge within minutes. I guarantee you that judge will have me in the courthouse. You have to understand it in a pattern, Anderson. Donald Trump said he was going to be a dictator on day one. The essence of dictatorship is breaking the law, and these unconstitutional
what's illegal
actions,
about this?
Well, it violates First Amendment, freedom of speech. There's no due process at all. It cuts off my client's right to counsel if I need, and I do, security clearances to represent clients. This won't hold up in court, just like so many others of Donald Trump's actions. Illegal spending freezes, Mr. Elon Musk and Doge pawing over personal data, the firing of those FBI agents. I'll be in court this week on an illegal firing of tens of thousands of probationary employees. We've gotten order after order from the courts, myself and our partners, cutting that off. Yes, you need lawyers and law firms to bring those cases, but the retaliation won't work. Perkins Coie got one of the best firms in the country to represent them. And I think you're going to see some law firms will be scared, but many attorneys are going to take this as a backhanded compliment. Anderson, you know what? I'm doubling down, and so are my colleagues at Democracy Defenders.
I heard a number of firms turn down, I think Perkins Coie initially, but they do have a very good law firm now representing them. Ambassador Norm Eisen, appreciate it. Aaron Mulvaney as well. Thanks so much.
D.C. courtroom now urging a judge to stop the White House from shuttering the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Already, Doge has hollowed it out. Employees were sent home and basically told to stop working. Its former director, who was fired by Donald Trump, says doing that, hollowing out the Consumer Protection Board, puts Americans with mortgages, with student loans, medical debt, and more at risk. And he warns the slasher-in-chief, I'm talking about Elon Musk, could have another goal, laying the groundwork for a wild west of big tech currencies operating with no government oversight. That former director, Rohit Chopra, is here now. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. So this is really because there's so many things that the CFPB does or did until a few weeks ago. But I do want to talk about Elon Musk, and just to start this conversation with a tweet that he put out there in a couple of months ago. When he rebranded Twitter as X, he said he wanted it to be an everything app where you could conduct your entire financial world. So now what is happening as Musk and his team, they have access to pretty much everything in the federal government, sensitive data about and by and from American citizens. So explain in layman's terms why this is such a big deal.
Well, you know, big tech companies in the U.S. have really been drooling at what they see in China, where Chinese tech companies can conduct surveillance on all Chinese citizens and what they're buying every day. So they're all trying to train their algorithms, artificial intelligence, and that's why you see Google Pay, Apple Pay, and now X Money wants to be able to know everything you're buying, how much you're paying for it, and what were you thinking about at the time. And this really could lay the groundwork for the end of the price tag, where we are purchasing goods based on our behavior and our web browsing history rather than a transparent price, because that is the way these tech companies can make a huge amount of money.
And how can his access to virtually all of our data help advance his goal to do that in his private company?
Well, people have been wondering, why are they so fixated with this a small agency like the CFPB? It's because the CFPB is responsible for monitoring all of those tech companies for how they're moving our money to protect against privacy, errors, and fraud. And if they can creep in there and look even at their competitors, that could be a big edge for them. You know, I really worry that when we buy an airplane ticket or something online, it should really be a fair price that you and I see the same thing. But more and more Americans are noticing that the price may be different based on who is looking at it and when. And that really raises some real issues about intrusive pricing in our life.
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed that. Even when I've gone back to look for a ticket, the price goes up because they know I really want it. But let's stay focused on Elon Musk for a second, because
operation is currently underway in the North Sea after an oil tanker and a cargo vessel collided this morning off the coast of Hull. These pictures that were sent to the BBC show smoke billowing from both ships. The American-flagged tanker is the Stena Immaculate. On the tracking side, it was seemingly at anchor outside Hull when it was hit by the Solong, a Portuguese-flagged container that was heading south from the Scottish port of Grangemouth towards Rotterdam in the Netherlands. The chief executive of the port of Grimsby East was told there was a massive fireball after the collision. Reports of people abandoning ship, lifeboats and firefighting teams quickly dispatched to the scene. More than 30 casualties have so far been brought ashore at Grimsby. The Coast Guard rescue helicopter was scrambled from Humberside alongside lifeboats from Skegness, Bridlington, Maplethorpe and Cleethorpes. This is the map of the location. The collision site is around 20 kilometres off the coast there. And if we switch to this map from marine traffic, then you will see that at the time, there were a lot of ships in that area. As you would fully expect, on any given day, there is a lot of shipping that comes in and out of the Humber estuary and the container port in Hull. So an obvious question, why was more care not being taken? Let's speak to our reporter, Rowan Bridge, who's just arrived in Grimsby Fours. Let's start with the rescue, Rowan. What do we know about the crews on board?
Yes, well, we know that at least 32 people have been brought ashore following that collision. They have been brought through the port here in Grimsby, where I am, but the condition of some of those is not yet known. We know that at least 20 people who were on board the tanker have all been accounted for, but the condition of the others brought ashore isn't clear at the moment. We have seen ambulances and emergency services turning up here, presumably ferrying people to hospital, whether that be Grimsby or to Hull or perhaps potentially further afield, depending on how serious their injuries are. I mean, if you saw some of the footage, as you said in your introduction, there were reports of a massive fireball at sea, and then video footage, you can see black smoke billowing from the oil tanker. But what's not clear is exactly how people were able to get off there and how seriously injured before they managed to get off the ship they may be, or indeed who there is who may yet still be to be accounted for.
It seems a fair day behind you, Rowan. Do we know what conditions were like out at sea?
No, I mean, that's still one of those things that's going to be investigated. And as you say, Christian, at the time this happened, one of the vessels was at anchor. It had travelled from Greece up towards the port of Hull and was anchored off the coast of East Yorkshire here when it was struck by the cargo vessel. Now, what's not clear is why that could happen in daylight conditions today. This was reported as about 10 to 10 this morning, so it would have been daylight. What's not clear is what led to those circumstances which allowed that condition, that collision to happen. The other thing which isn't clear at the moment, we're still trying to establish, is what was on board those two vessels at the time. You know, what was on board that oil tanker and what might the implications be of that. Clearly that vessel is on fire, but exactly what was on board at the time and what the implications of any spill from that vessel might be is still unclear at the moment. The investigation branch have arrived here. They are starting preliminary investigations. The Marine Accident Investigation Branch have begun their preliminary investigations into what happens here, but we are still very much in the early stages of this, as you might gather.
Rowan, thank you very much for that. Let's check in with our reporter Phil McCann, who's been following the live events and the reaction to it. Tell us a little bit more about these two ships, if you would, Phil. What do we know about them?
Well, just following on, Christian, from what Rowan was saying there in terms of what the oil tanker was carrying, we have actually in the last few moments had an update from the US logistics firm Crowley. That is the operator and also the joint owner.
You giving up your other stuff? I mean, how are you running your other businesses?
With great difficulty. Yeah.
The work is making you sigh. Clearly, Elon Musk has had a rough few days. Tesla dealerships have become the target of protests across the country, and its stock price has taken a big nosedive. Just today, Tesla's stock price dropped by 15%. There are going to be some hangry shareholders there. That made it the worst day for the company in almost 5 years. Twitter also had a bad day, and that's saying something, folks, with massive outages that Musk blamed on a cyber attack that originated from Ukraine. Yeah, sure. And increasingly, Americans are just fed up with this guy. Polls consistently show Musk's approval rating underwater. And apparently, even some in Trump's White House are fed up, too. In a meeting last week, Trump cabinet officials reportedly clashed with Musk over his approach in overhauling the federal government. And with all of this outrage surrounding Elon Musk coming from everywhere all at once, Democrats see an opportunity here. More and more, they're putting him in front and center in their messaging and, of course, in attack ads across the country.
Who's going to pay the price? Us. Our jobs lost. Our grocery prices up. Our housing unaffordable. Our benefits cut. Also, billionaires can reap the benefits.
Elon Musk is out of control.
And now the power-hungry billionaire is unloading millions to buy the Wisconsin Supreme Court. He knows MAGA politician Brad Schimmel is for sale.
Vance, Simone, and Brendan are back with me at the table. So, Vance, here's the deal. I get it. I mean, in some sense, he's an easy target. Musk is. But I want to go back to where Simone was at the beginning of the last conversation, because we're kind of aligned in that space. I think if Democrats solely focus their ire on Musk, you miss the moment. You miss the mark in the moment. I think there should be a broader approach in your advertising. That's good. But that's not the end game. The end game is Donald Trump.
Yeah, and making Donald Trump own some of these decisions. Right now, of course, Musk is his heat shield in some ways. But it is also true that Elon Musk is spending money in these Wisconsin Supreme Court races. He is the one slashing Social Security offices all over the place. By the way, he stands to make $55 billion from Tesla, a company he's wrecking right now. $55 billion. I mean, before we had CEO pay packages of $100 million, that was obscene. Right. $55 billion. So, he is a huge figure in the Republican orbit right now. We shouldn't underlook that. But you're right that at the end of the day, Donald Trump, the buck stops with him. He's the one who's making these decisions. He's empowering him. And you sense now, increasingly in the press, there's more of a rift. Suggestions of Marco Rubio's upset, that Sean Duffy's upset at him. Even Donald Trump might have to, even Steve Bannon, of course, maybe the loudest, angry at him. I don't mind a little bit of the Civil War playing out.
All right. So on that front, Simone, Elon was on TV today.
Oh, Lord. I saw it. I'm like, what is he whining about?
It was on Fox Business. So let's have a little listening on what Elon had to say over at Fox Business.
There's a massive amount of fraud of basically people submitting Social Security numbers for Social Security benefits, unemployment, Small Business Administration loans, and medical, where those are fake Social Security numbers, or they're stolen somebody else's Social Security number, and we're trying to put a stop to all of that. And that's the number which is estimated to be on the order of 10% of federal expenditures.
If it was that easy to sell a Social Security number, honey, there would be a black market.
And there'd be a black, blue, red, white, and blue market on this.
Pookie, Joe, Keisha, and Juan would all be getting rich.
Every last one of them would be rich.
It would be a multicultural grab bag.
I'd have an operation in the back behind me on the set.
No, you wouldn't, because you would be legal, Michael Steele.
But that's the point. How does he know that when Doge has been on the ground doing this for how long? And doing it improperly and incorrectly?
They're not on the ground, Michael. They're at a spreadsheet at a computer.
Yes. This is true. They're at a spreadsheet at a computer.
But also Social Security, Congressional Research Service has told us this for many years. Undocumented people contribute into Social Security and don't receive benefits. In fact, Social Security reports a surplus every year from money coming in from undocumented. There's no waste fraud.
People who have died, who have Social Security, like my father, who died in 2017, my mother gets his benefits because she is his beneficiary on the paperwork. But when you have people who don't understand how the United States government works because they're freshly here and not keyed into what's going on inside the government, Elon Musk out of South Africa.
I say sincerely, I admire Elon Musk's ambition. But he is a person who just seemingly woke up one day and said he's going to do politics.
Yes. And he needs an advisor. He can stand to make a lot of money.
He acts like he's the first person who realized that there's fraud or waste in government. There are Inspector General reports and GAO reports this high that have outlined these things for years. And he's like, did you know this? Yes, all of us were aware of that. But there isn't like a button you press and it goes away. And so that's let's take this a little more seriously. Let's be a little more thoughtful about what we're doing. And so, on the substance, but then also on the politics, he's causing a huge problem for his boss.
So on that point, is there a point where he becomes more toxic than Donald Trump can stand?
Certainly. And I think Donald Trump actually has a pretty good political radar. Like, if he realizes that I'm losing more than I'm gaining from here, I think he'll cut him loose really quickly. I mean, he can't entirely cut him loose because he does depend on his money a lot for political reasons. But Musk is going through this in this maximum pain, minimal gains, firing people, creating all this chaos. And the budget savings he's actually talking about this is tiny. He's not balancing the budget.
They haven't saved any money
They haven't saved any money.
Can I just make one point, because I know you're about to go. So the point that you started with about why all the focus on Elon Musk.
And we always talk about kind of some of these similarities between what's happening now and Russia in 2000 when Putin first came to power. We don't know any of the oligarchs' names in Russia, but we know Putin. Right. And so the problem, I think, with continuing to elevate Elon Musk so much in the messaging is that you miss the forest for one tree. Elon Musk is not the goal. Republicans writ large. I don't understand why in the messaging, Democrats are not making Mike Johnson and Republicans in the House and Senate look like fools who are being pushed around by an unelected billionaire that woke up one day and just decided to do politics.
So
that's some of the stuff.
So back to you on the messaging piece and to what Brendan was saying, there are vulnerabilities there. Yes. How do you take advantage of them?
Let me remind everyone of Donald Trump, and I'm not obviously not his biggest fans here. I watched him hundreds of events this cycle, and I promise you, as someone who watched a lot of those, he never talked about, put me in office, and I'm going to slash the hell out of this federal government. I am going to cut Medicaid to the bone. Put me in office, and it's going down. I'm bringing my arsonists. We're shutting down this federal government. Never made those claims. Never argued for them. Now, a lot of people feel hoodwinked and bamboozled. He, in fact, when Project 2025 laid this out in a blueprint, what did he do? We all remember. He said, not mine. Right. That is not my plan, and that's not my proposal. Well, it was a lie. It was a
okay, so we know that. We know that. So then what is the response to that?
They need to put the ads out, and I think Democrats have to be disciplined in their messaging. I will say they have been dogged on the Social Security front and more recently the Medicaid front. They've been very clear about that. I don't think voters wonder where they stand on that. I do think highlighting the stories of real people that are affected, that's going to make a difference and remind people, look, Social Security has never missed a payment in 80 years. And because of what this administration is doing, next month people might not get their checks.
All right. I got so much more that we could hit on this one. So much more.
Everyone wants this war to end, but any agreement has to protect Ukraine's security and can't be a giveaway to Putin. Putin is a war criminal who targets hospitals routinely. I visited one in Kyiv. Injured soldiers told me how they wanted to get back to the fight. Nurses there shared their stories of the invasion with me through tears. He said, I met with Ukrainian pilots flying challenging combat missions against the Russians who are protected by a considerable electronic warfare and surface-to-air missile system defense. When Trump cut off these Ukrainian pilots from U.S. intelligence that they needed to plan their missions, he blinded them to the threat and he put them and their aircraft at risk. But worse than that, it helps the Russians advance further into Ukrainian territory to murder more Ukrainians. President Trump says the Russians are, quote, hitting them hard in a tone of voice that implies approval. It is sickening to see from an American president. Quote, hitting them hard means more dead Ukrainian kids. Senator Kelly says, quote, I visited the Wall of Remembrance to pay tribute to Ukraine's dead soldiers. I'm bringing back what I saw and learned from Ukrainian leaders, service members.
The couple has traditionally spent more than $30,000 a year on U.S. vacations, but they're hitting the brakes.
We love our American friends, and we love your country. We have seen
almost all of your country. This is really horrible. This is upsetting.
Trump has repeatedly called the Canadian Prime Minister governor and suggested making Canada the 51st state. He says Canada has been, quote, ripping off the United States.
We've never had an issue with any individual in the U.S., but
I have to jump in here. We keep hearing Canada say that they love America, they love Americans. I'm seeing, I don't know about y'all, but I'm seeing America just being used and abused. I never seen a friend get upset because a leader came in and said, this is what I'm demanding. And then they basically crap on the Americans because of their leadership. If you have so much friendly ties with America and Americans, how can you be so divided at this time against America? The leader of America by government is President Donald J. Trump. For some time now, Canadians have been living it up. Fine. They said they're nice people. They're not like Americans. But we love Americans, but we would never want to be anything like you Americans. So there's a lot of interesting dialogue that I'm hearing, and I don't know if y'all are feeling it too, but it's just adding to more divide with the nations. Hopefully you come back in and tune in. I will have a deep commentary. I think I'm gonna just go in. I'm gonna go all in. I have my own views, but I'm gonna try to have some like unbiased opening content so that y'all feel free to join in and tap in on how you feel. I just keep hearing how much love America has, but I have yet to see it. That's all. That's all.
we are furious and horribly insulted by the lack of respect and demeaning comments coming out of the Oval Office. It is like we've been gut punched by our best friend the last month. The way we shop is different. The way our stores look is different. We examine labels, and if something says made in the USA, it goes back on the shelf. We're voting with our wallets. We are shopping differently.
Instead of using their Disney World annual passes to return in April, Gary Cruz says he's picking up his RV in Florida and driving it home for who knows how long. They still haven't canceled their November trip to stay in the U.S. for the winter months. They hope by then that not only will tariffs be lifted, but that leaders come to a respectful understanding without unpredictable threats of more tariffs in the future.
We're healthy right now, but we don't have a long-term expectation of being able to continue what we're doing. That's the reality of getting old. I don't want it to end like this.
So to Canada, where the next Prime Minister says he won't back down in a trade war with the United States. The Liberal Party has chosen Mark Carney. You'll be familiar, of course, former Governor of the Central Bank of Canada and the Bank of England. He will replace Justin Trudeau as the Prime Minister in the coming days. He says he'll leave in place the retaliatory tariffs against the US. He told the party, in his words, "In trade as in hockey, Canada will win." And he struck a similar tone. You remember? Mark Carney joined me the day he announced his candidacy.
We are the U.S.'s largest client. We import more than China, the U.K., France, Japan combined from the United States. We're the largest client of 35 of 50 U.S. states. So it's very important to come to a resolution on that. However, if the U.S. is going to change fundamentally the rules of the game, if they are going to rip up the trading agreement, which they have started to do, we've got a lot of strengths. We have other options. It will take some time to develop those, but we're resolute. We will pursue those and move in a direction.
Paula's with me. Paula in Ottawa. Paula, you know, it's tempting to sort of say, look, he's a...
I'm going to say what needs to be said. Yeah, my little homie got his snot box rocked. Yeah, it hurt. Yeah, he got his TV turned off. Yeah, it hurt. Yeah, he did. But you know what, though? Part of me is to blame, and part of you is to blame. Yo, I'm so sick and tired because I shouldn't have had to put shit so colorful for y'all to recognize that we was killing us on the battlefield. It was us killing us, not them. Yeah, it hurt. Yeah, he got his TV turned off. Yeah, it hurt.
Asking my black butt, am I okay? Is your white butt okay? Sit your $5 ass down.
Lay your ass down.
No, thank you, Rita. Sit down.
I know. Look at that white goat. Oh, they are so huge. Oh, look, there's a black one. Black one?
Because I'm black? I said, are you sure, motherfucker? Repeat that. I said, are you sure, motherfucker? Repeat that. Are you sure, motherfucker?
That's you, motherfucker. Find your tongue.
You talk to me.
I'll slap you, you idiot. Get out of here. Get out of here.
You bang your bloody god.
Yeah. If you want to go, then you go to hill and go down.
Why you get frightened?
Yes, why? Are you crazy? You're fucking. You are fucking. You fucking. You bloody. You bloody.
You bloody. Bastard bitch.
You
fuck you. Bloody fuck you, bloody. Fucking mother bloody fuck bitch.
Bitch, you.
Bloody fuck you. You fucking bloody bastard. Benchwood bloody.
Benchwood, you.
You bloody. Hey, what are you saying this? Don't talk to me like this.
Did you abuse
Don't.
me, you fat?
Hey,
Did
don't
you abuse me,
fuck
you
with me.
Did you
Hey,
abuse me, you fat?
hey, you
Get your
bang
finger ass out of here. Get out.
your bloody god.
Get out of here.
Bloody god.
Get out of here.
Oh.
Get out of here.
Oh.
Did you abuse me?
Don't abuse me.
I'll have to